Hi, folks. Welcome to today's sermon on the dangers of being a vinyl addict and visiting those dens of iniquity and temptation that are called record fairs. Yesterday was the February Record Fair at Carlisle, first one there since last December, and of course myself and my friend went, and I ended up spending a lot of money, and mainly on one item, which is something I never do. Anyway, let's get on with it. All of these I've just finished cleaning, but I've not listened to yet, so I can't probably comment on exactly what they're like. First up, we'll go with the two cheapies that were in the cheap bins. And the first is this album by the Johnstons, If I Sang My Song. Now, the Johnstons were a folk band that came out of Ireland, started by three siblings. They had a couple of other musicians, in the band, the most famous of which was Paul Brady, who, following the Johnstons, went on to play with Planxty and then had quite a decent solo career. During the course of their history, they did quite a few albums, but as they went along, the siblings started to disappear until at the very end there was only one lady left. And at this point, which I think is their final album which is on Transatlantic, by the way, and it's from, I think, 1972. At this point, they were down to just two people, that being Paul Bradings and the one remaining sibling, Adrienne Johnson. When I first heard them way back, they did a lot of traditional material, but as I think they went on, they did less and less. I don't think any of this is traditional material. It's all either written or co-written by Paul Brady. There are a couple of famous musicians appearing on here: Tim Hart of Steel Ice Band, Royston Wood of the Albion Band, and the Young Tradition. And also we have Rick Kemp of Steel Ice Band on bass. Don't know what this is going to be like, but hopefully it'll still be enjoyable. And next up was an album by Leon Redbone. I think this is his first album on the track, from Warner Brothers from 1975. I love Leon Redbone's music. If you haven't heard him before, he has a gravelly, low baritone voice and sings probably what you might call vaudevillian songs, neo and folk and jazz standards from the 20s and 30s. Absolutely brilliant. Doesn't show on here, but normally after this point he would wear a fedora all the time, white suit, dark glasses, and a Groucho Marx moustache. Don't see very many of his albums out in the wild. I think this is the third one I've got, but I love this type of music.
Then one evening I remember, and you told me about your endless longing, and you were less a child than a man, but the child held my soul in his hands. That evening as we moved to quiet sounds, touched by the beauty of the rhythms and the textures that we found.
Well, I went down south for to see my gal, Polly Walla Doodle all day. She got curly eyes and laughing hair, Polly Walla Doodle all day. Fare thee well, fare thee well, fare thee well, my fairy fay. I'm going to Louisiana for to see my Susiana, Polly Walla Doodle all day. There's a grasshopper sitting on a railroad track, Polly Walla Doodle all day, picking his teeth with a carpet tack, Polly Walla Doodle all day. Fare thee well, fare thee well, fare thee well, my fairy fay. Gonna Louisiana for to see my Susiana, Polly Walla Doodle all day.
Those were the two cheap ones. If you saw my last Carlisle Record Fair video, I showed that I'd bought a load of stuff from a couple of sellers that had come down from Scotland, who had bought the collection of another seller who'd been down the time before that. And so I went through their stock again, and I managed to pick up another 3 from that same collection. These, in the same way as last time, they were selling at half price. First up, we have Wild Turkey with their debut album. I think they only ever did 2, to be honest. And this is Battle Hymn. Cover's a bit knackered, I'm afraid, which is probably why it was the cheapest one, even without the half price. And there you go. They were a hard rock band. This album was from 1972, this their debut album. They were formed by Glenn Cornick on bass, who came out of, obviously out of Jethro Tull, played I think on their first 3 albums. We also have Jeff Jones on drums, who was the drummer on the first 2 Man albums. We have Gary Pickford Hopkins, who I know as a vocalist for Rick Wakeman. I think he was one of the 2 vocalists on Journey and on the Henry VIII, not Henry VIII, the King Arthur album. And we have Tweak Lewis on lead guitar. And after this, he joined Man. He played on the Back to the Future album. Final guy is John Blackmore on guitar, who I don't think ever did anything after this point. The only other Wild Turkey album I've got is an unofficial BBC in concert, which is them on one side and Daryl Way's Wolf on the other. And that was really good, so I'm expecting this to be pretty good. Again, as I said, it's hard rock, 70s hard rock. One of the albums I got last time at Carlisle from this collection was Audience's House on the Hill, and they had their 4th and final album from 1972. This is Lunch. This is meant to be their weakest album. Audience were this sort of art rock band led by Howard Worth, with his distinctive vocals. Did 3 excellent albums. This, as I said, is meant to be less idiosyncratic than the others, more down a more commercial, mainstream route. It's meant to be a concept album, but I don't know what the concept is. For this album, they added 3 extra musicians, I think. They added Bobby Keys on tenor sax, Jim Price on trumpet and trombone, and Nick Judd on piano. Though I don't know whether they were full-time members or just guests for this album, but they get their pictures in the gatefold. And the album again was produced by Gus Dudgeon. So I'll be interested to hear this. I've got a feeling it'll still be a decent album, though not up to the standard of their previous three. And finally, from that collection, and then again an album by another band that I bought last time, and this is Capability Brown with their second and final album, Voice. This is from, when was this released? Bear with me. It's on the famous Charisma label, and it's 1973. Now, this is meant to be the highest rated of their, show you the band there, highest rated of their two albums. The first one that I got back in December, I really liked. It was a mixture of prog and sort of CSNNY type vocal songs. And like I say, it really impressed me. On that album, they did a couple, I think 3 covers. They did 2 songs by Rarebird and 1 by Argent. And on this album, they again do a couple of covers. They do, I think it's I Am and So Are You, which was by the prog band Affinity. And they do Midnight Cruiser, which is a Steely Dan song. But the reason that this album is so highly rated is the second side, which is just one track called Circumstances. In Love, Past, Present, Future Meet, which is meant to be their proggiest song and is really highly regarded by the prog community. Like I said, I love the first album. I'm expecting to enjoy this very much, even though the cover is awful. The first album had a really nice cover. This is terrible.
But your future's gone, my chance is lost. You left us so soon, there's now a space. No words can fill, no songs replace. Manifest your
The rest of the albums I got came from the main guy I go to buy stuff from at Carlisle. He always knocks 25% off everything. So it makes it really worthwhile. And the first one I managed to find from him was Graaf Generator's A Grounding in Numbers. This is an album from 2011. They came back for the second time, I think, as a quartet in 2005, did the album Present. But after that, David Jackson, the saxophonist and flautist, left. And rather than replace him, they carried on to this day as a three-piece, drums, organ, and Peter Hamill on vocals, piano, and guitar. This was the second of the albums in, like I said, 2011 that he did as a trio. I have this on CD somewhere. It's not one I've ever given an awful lot of listens to. I remember quite liking it, but I think I was quite a bit disappointed in that they don't stretch out in any of the numbers. And I like Van der Graaf when they stretch out a bit more. These are all shortish numbers, longest being about 5 minutes. No, 6 minutes. There's 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 numbers. So, but it's Van der Graaf. It's Peter Hamill. It's going to be great. You don't see many of their later albums on vinyl. At least I never do. So I was really chuffed to find this. This was put out by Esoteric, Cherry Red organisation fame. So I'm hoping he'll get some of the other later ones in on vinyl. But really pleased to find this.
And I don't even know how my own story goes, or if it's worth a shot. I can't see my stream. I can't see my stream.
The next one, it seems, is a brand new reissue, which I didn't know about. It's come out this year, and is one of my favourite Canterbury jazz fusion bands. That is Gilgamesh, with their second and final album. Another fine tune you got me into. I didn't know this had been reissued, so I bought this sealed from the guy, and like I said, 25% off. Excellent. Gilgamesh were Alan Gowan, the keyboardist's band, and on here they had Phil Lee on guitars, Hugh Hopper, the great late Hugh Hopper, on bass, and Trevor Tompkins on drums. I said, this is, if you like National Health, Matching Mole, Hatfield in the North, I think you're going to like this. Excellent Canterbury jazz fusion, all instrumental. Back in the 90s, there was a resurgence of prog music in Scandinavian, and particularly, I think, in Sweden. And one of my favourite bands of that era was Anekdoten. And this is, I think, their final album to date, Until All the Ghosts Are Gone. Not one I've ever owned or heard even. Anekdoten were very much influenced by King Crimson, particularly the heavier King Crimson of like 73, 74, that period. Produced some brilliant albums. So I'm expecting great things of this. I think this one, while still retaining that heavy King Crimson influence, tones things down a little bit throughout the album. But I was really, pleased to find this one in there. And now we get to the big one, the one where I spent so much money, far too much money, more than I would normally even consider. And this again is probably my favourite of those Swedish prog rock bands from the 90s, and this is by Anglagard. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. I was so excited when I saw it, and then I looked at the price, and my heart dropped. I'll show you exactly what it was. Can you see that? £100. I would never consider spending £100 on a single album, but 25% off takes it down to 75. Then you knocked a bit more off. Got it for about 70. Still more than I would normally pay. So I'll better show you what it is. This is Anglagard, Prog par Svenska, live in Japan. I think this was the last album they put out. I think this was from 2015, something like that? 2013 this was from. I'm expecting great things of this. This was never released on a proper label. This was self-released by the band, which is another reason why it's so rare and expensive. Again, they were another band that were heavily influenced by King Crimson, but I think with Anglagard they had that more of as well, a sort of Genesis, Peter Gabriel era Genesis sort of feel to some of the music. I absolutely love them. They did 3 studio albums and 2 live albums, this being the second of the live albums. I've got the first 2 studio albums and the first live album. The first live album, by all accounts, the band hated. They didn't like it at all. But as far as I recall, it was brilliant. They did split up for a while, came back, did the third of their studio albums, and then produced this live album. Like I said, I wouldn't normally spend £70 on an album, but I knew I was never going to see this again. You can't get hold of the studio albums either now. They really need a reissue. They're so expensive online. And talking of online, when we were coming back in the car, I looked this up on Discogs. This goes for around £150 to £200 on Discogs. And all the sellers are either in Europe, Germany, Italy, I think Sweden, and there was one from South Korea even. So getting it for 70 instead of 150, and that's before the postage from the continent. I think in the end I did a good deal with and getting this at 70. So I'm really looking forward to giving this a spin. So that's it. That's where I got at Carlisle yesterday. Unfortunately, next Saturday, there's not just one record fair, there's two. Windermere and Kendal, and my friend that I go with, he wants to go to both. So it's going to be another expensive day out. But it's music. You got to do it, don't you? God help my soul. Anyway, folks, hope you enjoyed seeing those albums. I will hopefully see you again soon, probably next weekend. Take care.